How to maintain your dartboard. Does your dartboard look like this? Or does it damage your wall and shake all the time? Here are my top tips for maintaining your dartboard. My name is Mark and I'm going to show you how to keep your dartboard in tip-top shape. So tip 1, when you put your dartboard up, make sure you level it evenly. This will stop your board from vibrating when you hit it and damaging the wall. Now if you have rotor locks like these on the Winmore boards, or these peak fix like on the new Target Tour board, you can use them, but be careful not to overdo it. Many internal walls are made from plasterboard. It can pull the board out of the wall. So tip 2, when installing your board, use raw plugs. This will give you a strong and secure fitting to screw into. Also, don't be afraid to buy your own or stronger ones than provided. Now tip number 3 is about storage. Many people say they take their dartboard down after use, and when they come back to it, it's grown mould. That's because sisal is a plant. And to explain that better, here is Jerry from Bulls Darts.
Hello, my name is Jeroen van Veen, Jerry for English-speaking people, salesman or responsible for export within Embassy Benelux and Bulls Darts. I want to show you something about dartboards. There's a lot of talks about dartboards, there's a lot of myths around dartboards, and this is the real story. When you look at the dartboard, what we see here is basically the anatomy of a dartboard. As you can see, there's all fibers here coming out. These are all plant-based fibers. There's a myth going that in the old days dartboards were made of horse hair, which is obviously not the truth. You have a sisal plant, and the plant is dried. And in the leaves of the plant there's nerves, and the nerves are really long. So what you see here, all those nerves are packed together and are cut into what they call biscuits. You see here is the lines, is how the biscuits are divided. Those biscuits are held together either by tape or some special paper. So the cleaning of the fibers and what tape you use is very much makes the quality of a dartboard. So when the dart is incoming, all the fibers will go open. And after you reject the dart from the board, the fibers will close again. So this guarantees a long lifespan. As you can see here, so you have the black screen, you have the green screen, the red screen. So that makes the dartboard. After that, the wires are placed, and in these days, most of the boards are used inserted wires.
So as Jerry showed, sisal is a plant, and as with most organic material, it's sensitive to moisture and temperature. So if you store your board in a humid area, it runs the risk of looking like this. So I recommend you store your dartboard somewhere dry and cool. Room temperature should be okay, but certainly not in an airing cupboard. Now tip 4 is the most common issue we face. That's why I call it treble 20 damage. Now as darts is predominantly played, on the 20 it will obviously take a beating compared to the other sections. Now what people fail to realise, or are probably too lazy to do, is to rotate the board. Now to do that, you just pick a new segment, rotate the board around, and then change the numbering. As you can see, I've rotated from the Koto top here, which was where the 20 was, over to the 18, which is now the new 20. This is what people mean when they say on the forums and on social media to rotate your board. Now this is applicable not just to the treble 20, but for example, if you're always practicing on a certain double, you might want to rotate your board around so that double doesn't look so worn down. Now tip number 5, something I do but not everyone does, is to brush your board. Brush, Mark? Really? Sometimes the board hasn't actually faded and looks worn, it's just dusty. So you can use a brush with some light bristles across the surface of the board to give it a freshener. Now don't use water on the brush for the same reasons we mentioned earlier, and also don't scrub it to within an inch of its life. Look after it, it's your baby. Now tip number 6 is for those of you with light rings or things attached to your board. Now the tip is actually quite simple. Don't be too heavy-handed with these things, or they may cause damage to your board. That sounds simple, right? Well, for the youth players who cannot reach the board easily, I've seen many of them hold onto the light rings so that they can grab their darts out of the board. Now this will pull the light ring, sometimes that comes off, or if it's held on snugly, sometimes it even pulls the board off of the wall. I've seen it, it happens. So either get a 270 light so they can get easy access there, I'll put a few examples on screen now, or just be careful and don't apply any unnecessary stress or strain on the board that's held by one screw on your wall. It's certainly become much more of an issue with the heavier systems recently, so if you do have hollow walls, make sure to use strong raw plugs. I've said it twice, you can't get it wrong. Now tip number 7 is for those really OCD players out there, and it's a good tip too. Some boards don't have as deep colour printing as others, so when the darts go in and are removed, they pull out white strands of sisal, which is particularly evident on the black segments. My tip: get a Sharpie and touch up those bigger areas and voila, your board looks less worn. It's not perfect, but you can certainly reduce some of those more significant eyesores and leave that money in your pocket for a few months more. So there we go, 7 tips on how to maintain your dartboard and keep it in tip-top shape for as long as possible. Now, did I miss anything? Have you got any stories of mishaps with your board? Do you have any tips that we could use? Let me know in the comments below. From all of us here at Dartshopper, have a good one.